I work in international media, and I'm also the founder of the Center for Political Innovation. We educate people about opposing war and opposing empire, and trying to bring a new perspective to anti-imperialism and socialism, looking beyond left and right, but toward what brings us together, how we can build community.
And fantastic. How long have you been working with CPI?
CPI has been around for about 3 years. Before that, we had clubs on various campuses that were called Students and Youth for a New America. Then around the time of the pandemic, as the pandemic was coming to a close, we decided to launch the Center for Political Innovation as a formal educational think tank organization.
So you've gone through a transformation already.
Yeah, and we will probably take on many different stages, and we've been involved in many different projects, and our organizational form will evolve over time. One thing we really tried to do is we want to get past this notion that you have to form a party, because in the United States of America, there are two political parties, the Democrats and the Republicans. So if you go to average people and you say forming a party, they're already confused when you say you're not a Democrat or a Republican. And then when they find out you're a party, they want to know when you're on the ballot. And if you're not running candidates and you're a party, they're even more confused, right? And that this orthodoxy of we must form the party and publish the newspaper and have a leader with a certain mustache. This is kind of a stodgy old archaic way of doing things. And as we talk about socialism for the 21st century, we want to be more modern in our approach, and we aim to educate. We're not running candidates for office. We do some protesting, some mass outreach, but our main thing is to educate. We see ourselves as an educational organization. We will be one part of the coalition that's eventually needed, because I really believe in this kind of educational work about anti-imperialism and getting to average people who would never go looking for this message with it. And so we want to take on that task, and we can't just wait for some organization to come along that'll allow it to do us with them. We got to just seize the moment. We got to do it, right? And I feel like that's a big problem I see in a lot of circles. There's a lot of people, it's like, oh, if we could just, we could get into the Democratic Party, if we could just take it over, or we can, there's a community radio station, we can just get our people on the board. It's like, no, just do it. Just do it. Right? There's so much that needs to be done right now. Just do it. And that's been the CPI approach, is if we want to do something, we find out what we're capable of doing, we raise the money, we find the volunteers, and we do it, right? Because people need to know the truth about what's going on. Our country is in a very severe crisis. The world is in a very severe crisis. So it's time to do something, not just to wait for all the chess pieces to align and we take over some institution. Just do it. That's my attitude.
Absolutely, I agree. And and that, I would consider that a basic overview, folks. So I want to get into more detail on the importance of CPI at this juncture in our history, because it plays a very vital role, I think, in going forward with what is happening in the world right now and how to solve the problems. I tell people about Henry Wallace, how he was a socialist and he was a pacifist. So that's why the powers that be didn't want him to be the president, because they had plans for those bombs. You know what I mean? And so people need to understand, this is why it's important to understand the history, you know what I mean? So that you can at least, have a different perspective than what you were taught or weren't taught in school, which is, again, getting back to CPI, that's a vital role to provide materials for people to be able to read on their own, and also to do podcasts and interviews and talk about, like what we're doing now, talk about actual things from history, so that those that are interested at some point, I think we'll see more and more people who are interested. In order to understand how we got to where we are now, you do have to understand some history, yes. Right? So I think providing that information, so here's some tools, here's some information for you, and CPI is doing a great job. Well, what are some examples of some of the books that you've published or had republished?
Well, the first book we ever published was The Green Book by Muammar Gaddafi, because, Libya, under the leadership of Gaddafi, had the highest life expectancy in Africa. They had built the world's largest irrigation system, the Great Man-Made River. And so we wanted to show people what it was that, that Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama destroyed with their bombing campaign in 2011, and how it was that the most prosperous country in Africa was reduced to rubble, and what NATO, this criminal organization, what it had done in Libya. So we published the Green Book, which is the manifesto of the Libyan government. We have also published a number of books, about socialism in the United States, socialist history, about economics, trying to give a new perspective, because we do feel like, a lot of the left are very, very loyal to the Democratic Party, and they view the masses of the American people as their enemy, and that's a huge mistake. And so we have to rethink left and right in our time. I'm a religious person. I believe in God. I'm a Christian, and I think that Christian faith and socialism walk hand in hand. Obviously there was horrendous persecution of Christians during the Cold War time, but the communist world has largely changed its perspective. The head of the Russian Communist Party, who I've met, Gennady Zyuganov, he's a Christian. He's a Russian Orthodox Christian. Nicolas Maduro, the leader of Venezuela, is a Roman Catholic. Daniel Ortega of Nicaragua, not only is he a Roman Catholic, but the slogan of the government is Christianity, socialism, and solidarity. And that we need to rethink left and right and how we orient ourselves, because unfortunately, I think a lot of the most ugly capitalist politics, this degrowth notion that human beings are a cancer, the radical individualism where everyone feels a need to yell at everybody else and tear them down the way people do on social media. Unfortunately, a lot of the left has embraced that. And a lot of Americans are rightly threatened by that. They don't appreciate that. And I think that, is those sentiments of resisting the low-wage police state and the degrowth and the march toward World War III and the kind of elements of control that are being imposed on our population right now. That is where the socialists and the anti-imperialists need to be. And we don't need to be with the left. It's almost kind of trying to enforce it and sees the enemy as the population. And that's, CPI is kind of new in our orientation. We tell people we're not left, we're not right, we're anti-war.
Patriots.
And we're patriots too. We love our country, right? And if you don't love your country, why should the country listen to you? If you're not motivated by trying to make things better in your country, what do you have to say? It's just kind of common sense. If you're in Brazil, you're a political leader in Brazil, you should be trying to make Brazil better. If you're in Greece and you're trying to make Greece, you're a political leader, you should be trying to make Greece better. It's just common sense. But unfortunately, a lot of the left has gotten into this kind of weird identity politics place where it's not about actually trying to make things better. It's about demonstrating how good you are. It's a virtue signaling. And I think that's a problem. And so in order to do the work that needs to be done, we've had to, separate ourselves from the mainstream of the left. And I think, but, we'll talk to anybody. The fact that I'm here in LA for this event, right? The idea of me doing something with this particular church, 5-10 years ago, I would have thought was outrageous. Right. And they probably would have thought the same thing. Exactly. But the world is changing, and we should embrace that change, because the world is constantly changing and evolving, and I'm constantly learning. I don't think exactly what I thought 10 years ago. I don't think you do either, right? And it's important to be able to learn and reconsider. The slogan in CPI that we've used, we say that we need a government of action that will fight for working families, right? Because we've been told, well, the government is best, the government's least. The government should just sit back. And I tell people, if you're a parent and you're just sitting back and your child isn't being fed properly, or your child's not getting, proper clothing to keep warm in the winter or whatnot, that's called neglect. And I would say that our government is guilty of criminal neglect. Too much of this country has been forgotten about, has been left behind. And so what we need is a government of action. That'll pave the roads, that'll hire the unemployed, that'll start rebuilding the country. We have a 4-point economic plan to improve the United States. Step 1 is a mass program of construction. Hire the unemployed, put them to work doing useful work, building, constructing, etc. Step 2 is public control of our natural resources. America's oil, America's coal, America's timber, America's natural gas. The wealth from that should go into the public budget. The electricity that comes from our rivers or from put energy and put natural resources into public ownership. And then the third stage would be public control of our banking system, so that, and I tell people, maybe Marx is a little too radical for you, read the Bible, read the Quran, read the Torah, right? They all forbid the lending of money at interest, because everybody knows that if you have a group of people who make money by having money, they just lend money and get money back, pretty soon they're going to be way richer than everybody else, and pretty soon the government's going to be indebted to them, and pretty soon they're going to have all the power. And the Federal Reserve System is just a ripoff. We get poorer. Every time we print $1, we get like $2 in debt. This doesn't make any sense. So get rid of the Federal Reserve, create a national bank, create a state bank, create some local banks that lend credit strategically for how we can make our country more prosperous, right? If we think we need more businesses in a certain area, lend money to make it happen. We need more people owning homes, we lend money to make it happen. But lending credit strategically, putting control of the purse strings of credit into the hands of the country overall, right? That'll enable us to control our economy. And then our fourth step would be the enactment of an economic Bill of Rights, which is what our President Roosevelt called for in his final State of the Union address: the right to a job, the right to housing, the right to education. And I tell people we shouldn't view these things as a handout, right? We've been told that if, giving people health care, giving people a job, that's just like giving them a handout. No, we should view it as an investment in the nation, right? Because if we're going to have a strong economy, we need everyone to be contributing to it. We need everyone to be employed and working and contributing. If we're going to have a strong country, we're going to need a healthy country where the people are at their best health so they can be as productive as possible. If we're going to have a strong country, we need an educated country. We don't want our people to be stupid. We need engineers. We need scientists. We need smart people who can make an informed decision when they go to vote.
Hello, this is Dan with Ishmael. And CPI in the house here in Los Angeles. How's it going?
Going great. We're here at the PFK forum on the station, and we had some great speakers. Dan gave a great speech. He showed the Unity and Growth booklet, brought that out into the forum, and it was a great. We're going to be organizing more from now on, hopefully more.
Yeah, and this is our first official meeting, right, as a local group here in Los Angeles. It didn't matter to me who was going to be president. We're on board. We're ready to challenge whatever needs to be challenged going forward, for innovationism, for anti-imperialism, pro-economic growth. And I'll send you now a little clip of my speech here at the event. And Ishmael, is there anything you want to say to the CPI community?
Remember that only peace can make America great again.
That is, I couldn't say it better.
Well, my name is Dan Niswander. If you've heard me on the Rebel Alliance News as Dan Nowman. Sometimes, we have to hear things we don't agree with. That's what free speech is about. Not everything we agree with, right? And I also want to talk about the Center for Political Innovation. I've interviewed Caleb Maupin in one of the segments, if you heard the radio show a while back. He wrote a book about Kamala Harris, which I think Tulsi Gabbard read, because some of the content she shared at the debate, if you remember. But anyway, we're opening a local chapter here in the LA area for Center for Political Innovation. They took a lot of books to the Libertarian Convention, to the Democratic Party Convention. This one in particular, Do You Believe in Growth? Why Russia and China Keep Rising While the US Society Stifles Innovation. And we are anti-imperialism. We are pro-peace, pro-growth, not degrowth like the system is that we live in, and we need to change that. China is not our enemy. Russia is not our enemy. Iran is not our enemy. Venezuela is not our enemy. We need to move forward beyond left and right where it matters and find a new way forward. All of us, we need to work in unity, whether it's on the local level, national, or connect internationally. We need to be open to change and growth and learn together and be together and solidarity together. Everybody, thank you very much. Thank you for the time. If you're interested in getting involved in the Center for Political Innovation, reach out to me. The group is starting now.
Well, what do we have here? A Starship snack delivery robot rolling through the campus of University of Minnesota. There's a little controversy going on with these little robots. The students like them. They're fast, affordable, and convenient. The Teamsters Union, however, is trying to block them because they say it takes jobs away from working families. Another argument is that the far left tried to drive Uber and Lyft out of Minneapolis because the drivers were demanding better pay so they could afford to feed their families. So what's the solution? Is there a way to provide jobs for working families without blocking progress? Or are we doomed to be a low-wage police state? Find out at our July 12th convention in Chicago. Working Families First, Defeat the deep state.
CPI, we're here at the end of the parade route in East Pasadena, and people lining up here to go look at the floats after the parade. So we're carrying our sign, and which says we need a government of action. Yes, exactly.
We're only gonna get it if we build it ourselves.
The Uhuru case,
Yeah,
that was actually a victory for free speech.
yeah.
You know.
The jury understood there was no evidence behind their charges, so they saw through that case, and they're exonerated. Thank God we have free speech still. And so all respect to the Arroyo 3.
So we're here at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, which is featuring 3 performances of Shen Yun. There was one earlier this afternoon. This is the one evening performance, and then there's a Sunday performance at 1 o'clock on Sunday tomorrow when I'm recording this. And here with Ishmael, we're getting looks.
China before communism. This show is trying to portray China was better before communism, but it wasn't. And it's trying to pull out your heartstrings to say like, oh, we gotta go and restore this beautiful feudal society where like people were dancing around and music was everywhere. But this is just so to manufacture consent so Americans are able to agree and say, yeah, we must do regime change in China, and we must bring this beautiful culture that's being oppressed by the heartless communists, while the communists were the ones that have raised China's living standards to way better than we as Americans could imagine.
The people there
I've seen
were
the
against the
Chinese.
government.
No, they're not.
The people are what?
The people there were against
Like
the
I have a
government
bunch of Chinese
So-
people saying that they love the Communist Party from China. They're in Chinese.
because they worship brand.
Brainwashing can go both ways, sir. For them, it was a cultural thing, and he saw our sign that said, no war with China. Well, that seemed to be his main focus, not Russia, Iran, or World War III. So we proceeded to tell him about the tagline that's used in all the commercial advertising out there, which is China before communism. And for him, he said that was all culturally. Everything was about the culture, the dancing and the music and all that kind of stuff. And it's beautiful. I'm not denying that. But when we would talk about obviously the big C, it was a whole different kind of a conversation. And so we were trying to be balanced, I think. My take on it is, and we were also trying to, while he and the other person, the woman that you heard, were bringing in the Chinese perspective as people that were born and raised in mainland China. We were talking about the American perspective, the U.S. American perspective, in specifically to explain to him why, for China before communism to us is political. Manny here is you're a union guy, right?
Well, I used to be.
Used to be?
Yeah.
Oh. With the LAUSD.
Yeah, so I was telling the guys here to maintain our freedoms. We've learned a lot from these past 4 years. So we're looking at the vaccine mandate from LAUSD. First, we protested, right, with Dan, with our friends, with Joey here, almost on a weekly basis in 2021. So that's the first step that I learned, right, to get our voices out, protest. And then California Educators for Medical Freedom is a small group of teachers. We banded together and we pooled our resources and we all chipped in for a lawsuit against LAUSD. And as you know, lawsuits take a long time. In 2022, we actually lost in the district courts, but we didn't give up there. We kept on going, and our partner group, Hill Freedom Defense Fund, so we took it to the Ninth Circuit courts of appeals. And in September 2023, the courts actually ruled in our favor. They overturned LAUSD's mandate.
And that's for the vaccine, right?
Yeah,
or
for the vaccine.
Anything else besides that?
For the vaccine mandate with LAUSD.
Everyone's really struggling, and I'm lucky enough where my house survived. About 10 houses survived on my street. There used to be 40 houses on that street.
Wow.
But I've been pretty much roughing it. We don't have water until April at the earliest. But we didn't have power until the day before Valentine's Day. And then the day of the day of before Valentine's Day, we had a mudslide and a flood at the same time. And so I had to evacuate my house the third time. I'm on the Facebook groups and stuff all the time, constantly absorbing stories and situations of other Altadenians in my area. But even with that, I couldn't count on one hand people that are selling that I've seen say that out loud. I imagine some of them are a little embarrassed or a little feeling shame over them deciding to sell and simply haven't made it public. I have heard some numbers come out currently that as of now, about a quarter or 25% of people who have been asked or polled, I'm not sure how they've done it, are feeling like they're going to have to sell.
Looks like the fire department is also involved here. Looks like people are in line waiting for some services. They've had 800, I think, up to even 1,200 people staying here. Some of this work the community should not be doing.
Yeah.
That's why we need a government of action.
Fight for working families.
It takes action for the working families in need. Look at this. I mean, where's the government, right? The people are doing this.
Hello, everybody. This is Dan and
Steven.
And we are here at the LA Times Festival of Books. What do you think, Stephen? What's your first impression?
So, I think one instance that really stood out to me was when we were in conversation with members of the Worldwide Socialist Web, and we were talking to a number of people from there. We had discussed people such as Putin and the future of the anti-imperialist movement, and we were also having discussions with them on the position of CPI within the anti-imperialist movement.
We need a serious alternative, which is the Center for Political Innovation. No war with China, Russia, and Iran. Stop killing in Palestine, Yemen, Syria. Stop fascism and Nazism in Ukraine. Supporting round 3 of Bernie means you may need, or you definitely need, therapy. And no wars on behalf of Israel. And don't bomb Iran and Yemen. Money for American families. The U.S. out of NATO.
The Center for Political Innovation, we are about to do, on July 12th, the biggest event that we have ever done. It will be our national gathering in Chicago on July 12th. And it's going to be really, really special. We are talking with a number of important anti-imperialist voices, a lot of different communities. There's going to be musical performances, dance performances, there's going to be great speeches, and it's going to be a whole day gathering dedicated to anti-imperialism. I am committed, and CPI has always been committed to building an in real life network of people. And we carry out real operations. We were at the inauguration of Trump with our Trump and Kim banner saying only peace can make America great again. We were on the streets of Chicago at the Democratic National Convention. We are putting door hanger flyers on doors of people, again, that would never go looking for this. We're not performing and trying to make ourselves feel good. We're actually trying to build a network of people that can be anti-imperialists in America. It's not easy to do. It's very difficult in these times to build a real in-life organization. People have their issues. We live in a very strange time, but we have to do it. And we are committed to continuing this project.
What we need is a government of action that fights on behalf of the overwhelming majority of the people against the monopolies and would increasingly tie us in with the emerging economy on the other side of the world, with the BRICS economy, as the Western financial establishment is collapsing.
And they start having various wars around the world, the Vietnam War, the Korean War, etc. But it gets to the point where the economic problems created by technology gets to the point that war becomes constant. They have to constantly be having wars, because that's the only way they can keep their system going. War becomes constant. And one aspect of globalism, imperialism, is that they were able to have stability in the homeland, because they bought off a section of the working class. We know about in the 1950s, the white picket fence and Leave It to Beaver and the comfortable life that a lot of white working class people had. Well, that's gone, right? The comfortable middle class that exists within the imperialist centers is now being liquidated and being gotten rid of. And we're entering a period where war is becoming constant. In order to maintain the system, they have to constantly be at war. And the imperialist homelands, the United States, Britain, France, Germany, these countries are deteriorating from within. Because in order to maintain this global international system, just to keep things flowing, they have to be committed to wars around the world. They have to be maintaining this global system, and they can't maintain the homeland. And so things are becoming more and more unstable here at home. And that we're entering a period where really the only way they can continue to make profits is with destructions, a period of destructive accumulation. And this is what Rosa Luxemburg predicted. World War I was the beginning of a process that would lead to a situation of constant, endless war and destructive accumulation. And she compared it to the fall of the Roman Empire. And that's kind of what happened to Rome, is that Rome spread itself all out over the globe, and pretty soon it got to the point that the whole thing fell apart because they were trying to maintain a system and they couldn't maintain peace at home. Was the fall of the Roman Empire a good thing? No, right? Obviously the Roman Empire was bad. It was a horrendous empire, slavery, and all kinds of awful things. But what replaced it wasn't better. The human life expectancy decreased by years as a result of the fall of the Roman Empire. The human height went down by inches because of the fall of the Roman Empire. There was a huge amount of instability that followed, and what replaced this brutal, horrific empire in Rome was instability and chaos on a new level that led to all of civilization suffering. And that's what kind of separates CPI from a lot of leftists out there. There's a lot of leftists say, well, this country's racist, and this country's evil, burn it down, tear it down. It's like, well, what's going to come next? They're more interested in the vengeance and and getting their feelings out there, but they're not saying what actually comes next. And we have people that look at our 4-point plan and they say, why are you always trying to save the country? Why are you always trying to save the system? Because I live here. Because, as bad as things might be in the United States, I really like that these lights work, the electricity. I really like when I go to the water and I turn it on, and it comes out. And if you're living in a society that's collapsing, that doesn't happen. Anyone who's ever been through a war or a huge amount of economic chaos, it's not a good thing. We don't want America to collapse. We want America to be reborn. We know that this economic order that the United States is at the center of isn't working. And we know that the United States has to change in order to survive. But we are motivated by love of our community, love of our country, and opposition to what this system is doing to it. And that's a fundamental difference that we have. Leftism is very much tainted by this kind of vengeful, angry aesthetic. Whereas we are looking at the economic realities of the situation and we're saying we have to change things. And that there are divisions within our ruling elite now that are creating the opening for a movement that could actually change things.
This land is your land, this land is my land. From California to the New York Islands, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters, this land was made for you and me.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone from CPI.